Good evening. You are tuned in and watching The Extra Point. We come to you live every Friday evening, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time via NGSC Sports now, no longer the National Gridiron Network. We have merged and need to get on there and check out the new website, all of the exciting new things that are going on, NGSC Sports. And tonight, as you guys know, we focus on the AFC and NFC South. We haven't talked any Carolina Panthers lately, so I wanted to devote this entire show to the Panthers. I'm very proud to be joined by my good friends from Cat Chronicles. We had a fun little draft last night. We're going to start out talking about that, and then we'll get into the preseason and it's cut season. Sad, sad time in the NFL. I hate cut days. I don't know if Joe and Ken do this, but I tend to get attached to these guys. You see them in camp, you follow them. You want so badly, especially for some of the good guys who don't have a strong shot, but they're out there making plays. You really want them to be that surprise guy who might make the roster. Not everybody can. Teams have to be down to 50. The league mandated regular season 53-man rosters by noon tomorrow. So we're seeing guys get cut. I'll let Ken and Joe talk about that, and then we'll get into some division predictions. See if Ken and Joe have any thoughts on most everyone picking the Panthers to finish last in the very tough NFC South. But before we get to all of the fun stuff, and I have to show you guys, I am very, very, very proud to be rocking my Panthers Nation t-shirt. I am also very proud to be an honorary VIP member of Panthers Nation. And I have a lot of love for the Carolina Panthers and their players, and for my guys who are getting ready to talk to me. So, Ken, why don't you come in and tell everybody who you are and where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm Ken Dye, and I'm the head writer at CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Here with my pal Joey, and you can reach me on Twitter at Ken_Dye. Real short, compact.
Very easy to remember.
Yep, easy to remember. So when you're drunk on a Friday night, you can tweet me to your heart's content. It'll be easy to find me. So
that's an every Friday night for me. Joe, tell everyone where they can find you.
My name is Riollano. I'm co-founder of CarolinaCatChronicles.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Joe Riollano.
All right. Well, Joe wasn't there, but he can. I know he knows a little bit about it. Oh, we've lost Ken a little bit. He'll be back in a minute. I was happy to be invited to participate in the Cat Chronicles fantasy football draft. We had there were opportunities to do mock drafts. It was actually, I believe, my first opportunity to do a mock draft. If I've done them before, I don't recall it, which tells you everything you need to know about my memory.
They were done Friday night.
Yeah, right? But I thought the mock drafts were fun. I had, you guys used Flea Flicker. How did you come about picking that, Ken?
Well, that was actually, I think, Tony's. Tony had come up with that. Joey might be able to fill you in a little bit more about that end of it. I was, everybody just kind of decided to pick me for a commissioner for whatever reason. And
it's fun to be nominated, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was kind of nice, that they had the confidence in me to, that I could do this. And if I might say so, the draft seemed to go pretty smoothly. We had 4 simultaneous drafts, so it was kind of a lot set up and a lot of testing just to make sure there wasn't some strange little quirks that we didn't know about. And a couple actually came up during some of the early mocks, so we worked them out and had a good time.
I thought it went very well too. It went pretty fast. Sometimes these fantasy drafts can just drag out, and you're like halfway asleep. By the time you get through. It went very quickly. I thought that it went really well. The one thing that I noticed that, and and it was probably entirely me. I'm sure there was a way to do this, but I couldn't go in and check the only roster I could see was my own. I couldn't go and check anybody else's roster. And I kind of like that because I like to scope out what other people are doing and see, what they might be looking to draft. But other than that, that was really the only.
Well, actually, there's a spot on the top. There's three tabs right above the thing, and you could have clicked on it, and then it brings up the draft by round, and then you click the team by team, and then click on the team name. There's a little drop down.
Well,
now you know for next year.
Yep.
Yeah, see? There you go. You learn something
They're
new
being so
every day.
quiet. You should have said, hey, how do I see something?
Well, Ken knows this. I'll tell you guys. I was multitasking and probably not doing a very good job. I'm usually a little bit more, I usually trash talk and am a little bit more chatty in these things. But the Titans were playing, and I was trying to keep an eye on that game and you get a sense of who the Titans were looking at. It's very difficult to extrapolate anything from the final preseason game. But I was keeping an eye on that too, and trying to keep an eye on the fantasy draft. And I think I managed to be somewhat successful. I drafted a team, so you
had pretty good running backs from what I looked at. You seem to load up on those, but they get hurt, so that's good deal.
My philosophy, and here are Sharona's philosophies on fantasy football. It's your team. You draft who you want to draft because you may. I listen to other people. I read a lot of fantasy football stuff, but in the end, it's your team. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to giving something away here. I am not. Unless I think they're a very, very, very special player, I'm not going to draft a player that requires me to cheer for somebody I don't like. And so I draft guys that I like, but I want people that guys I think that are going to be productive and do well. But it's all about picking a team that I like and
that you want to root for.
Yeah, who my first round pick was? My first pick of the draft, right? The seventh round, number 7 overall. Panthers fan, of course, I go for Jimmy Graham.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I actually, you almost didn't get him because I really thought seriously about drafting him.
What were you picking at?
I picked at the 4 spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought seriously about Jimmy Graham. I thought about Bishop Sankey later on, and I also tend to shy away from Titans players. Not that I don't think that they're great, but because I just don't like to have too much invested, and you've got that's just I just try not to do it.
Right.
But other than that, what's that?
Didn't you get Delaney Walker though?
I did draft Delaney Walker. He was my very last pick. I needed a tight end. Yeah, I needed a tight end, and I'm a big fan. I think that I think he's going to do well. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have another tight end, but I wanted a second tight end, and he was the guy that I picked. Right. So.
Yeah. My second's Charles Clay from Miami. So
I like him too. Yeah, mm-hmm. I totally would have drafted him as well. So, I'm happy with my running backs. I thought I did really well on running backs. And I'm pretty happy with my wide receiver. I like my team. Mm-hmm. So, goal accomplished.
Well, there you go. I've said from the get-go that as a commissioner, my job is to treat everybody equal and make sure everybody has fun. Yeah.
I think you've done a fantastic job, Ken.
Thanks.
Big ups to Ken, the commissioner.
Here.
Yeah.
I second that. That really definitely is part of the reason why I'm going to say volunteered Ken to do this because we were confident in how good of a job he would do. He would, he'd really keep his nose to the grindstone and stay focused. That's why we felt it to be the best case scenario for us if he was to be commissioner of all 4 leagues.
Yeah, that's definitely All qualities that you want to have. All right, so let's move on a little bit. And by the way, in case you have forgotten, my fantasy football team name in my Cat Chronicles Fantasy League, 13 Degrees of Kelvin Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great segue, Sharona.
I love it, right? Okay, so let's talk about the preseason. And Joe, I'll start with you, and then we'll get Ken's thoughts. The Panthers, remind me, how did they finish in the preseason?
They finished with 2 losses and 2 wins.
Okay, I thought, I'm glad that you answered that, because I was thinking that they had gone 1-3, but they went 2-2. So I mean, that's okay. You know, I mean, you don't win, and it's mostly a record that's meaningless, because the preseason games don't count toward the regular season. What did you take away from the preseason, Joe?
The biggest takeaway for me was our offensive line isn't quite as bad as people were saying it was going to be, and our secondary is not as good as people were hoping it would be. Those are the 2 biggest things that I took away.
Okay. All right, Ken, what about you?
Well, I still am worried about Byron Bell at that left tackle spot. Last night, you could see why, especially in that first quarter. I forget which Pittsburgh defender it was. And don't get me wrong, Byron had some good plays and settled down, but he just doesn't have the feet the left tackle needs. He doesn't have the feet the right tackle needs.
He doesn't have much, if any, lateral movement.
He doesn't, and the thing is, he gets set thinking this guy's going to go wide, and he shot right in through it, inside through to the quarterback, smack. You can't do that. You cannot do that as a left tackle. So
I agree. I think that he is probably the biggest question mark. You know, you might have thought that it would have been the wide receiver position, and we're going to talk about that, but I'm not so sure, but that's not the biggest concern on the offense.
I certainly think it is. I think of all the positions along the offensive front, it is the tackle, the left tackle, that has the biggest question mark. I feel real confident in our ability to block on the interior with Khalil and Amini and Turner. Those 3 are going to do a great job of opening up holes for inside runs. But Byron Bell is a big question mark at left tackle. He's not been the most consistent. Chandler Jones ate his lunch in the Patriots game. Just Bell couldn't handle the speed. That's his biggest weakness. A speed rusher can get him.
Yeah. That's why I call him the turnstile and have for a long time.
Okay. Well, so let's talk about cuts. Who have the Panthers? Ken, I'll start with you. Start naming some of the cuts, and are you surprised by any so far? I have to say, I was a little bit surprised by the Jaquan Underwood cut.
Really?
Well. Yeah. You know, the thing is, the thing with Taquan Underwood is his pretty much his whole young career. It's all been about potential, and you know he's fast and he's got all this potential, but he's kind of a living example of why you need the mental aspect of the game, and you can't just be some physical beast and just go out there and expect to dominate.
I forget how many teams he's been on, but he's not stuck with any.
Patriots, Bucks, and Panthers, I believe. No.
Yeah, I remember him with the Bucks. I don't, you know.
There was a team that he was. I think it was the Patriots because he got cut at the Super Bowl.
That's the guy. I was trying to think.
I think it was the Patriots.
Yeah, it was the Patriots.
Yeah, he got cut Super Bowl day from the team. Isn't that great?
Yeah, after Super Bowl, you're out of here, pal.
Right.
But yeah, as far as receivers, though, we had, you know, we have so many on the roster coming in. We knew that some were going to, you know, half of them weren't going to be there at the end because we had like 8 or 9 of them. So we lost Taquan Underwood, Marvin McNutt, and the guy from Hawaii who's been with the team for a few years.
Kealoha Pilaris.
Right. all those guys, I'm okay with losing. I just think that you're going to see, Benjamin's going to be the #1 receiver pretty much starting off. I was thinking it was going to be Kotry because he was a grizzled veteran, comes in, been through, different systems, and, is the professional, been around. Then you got this rookie coming in, but he's really exceeded a lot of expectations, including mine, because he was a redshirt sophomore coming out of FSU. And I just thought that, the NFL would be a little too much too soon, for somebody like him, because they were talking about he was raw even for college. But apparently, Ricky Prohl, I know he's a great receivers coach, one of the best ones in the NFL, in my opinion. And he's got him on the right track. And
he does look good.
So I just hope he doesn't trip every time he goes to the end zone to catch a touchdown. Well, as long as he catches a touchdown, I don't care if he trips, but I don't want him to hurt himself. Let's say that.
Yeah, I agree. Joe, they were talking. There's been some talk about the fact that Jericho Kotry hasn't gotten a whole lot of work, a whole lot of reps in the preseason. Are you at all concerned about that?
I'm not concerned from the, he's a vet. He knows he doesn't have to get seasoned using the preseason. You worry about chemistry and timing a little bit. Cam, in addition to all the health issues, Cam hasn't been there to, really do a whole lot of timing with the receivers. I was at training camp, and, you could just tell that Cam had he looked good throwing the ball, but the timing just wasn't quite there. It was just a hair off. So you worry about that. Kotry, I don't know. I know he's going to come in as a #2. I feel pretty confident in saying that. And Avant has caught more balls than him. He's been targeted more, so I'm not worried, no. I'd like to have seen him make some plays, but no, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, Ken, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Cam's injuries are starting to mount. Now, it's way too early to panic, but, at some point you do get concerned. He has to learn to slide, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's obvious he never played a inning of baseball in his entire life.
Yeah, it really is.
It's painful. I mean, I don't know when they show these charts about how many hits quarterbacks get, if they count Cam in the ground when he tries to slide or not. I mean, the ground does not give, It even causes a fumble these days, especially. But no, seriously though, as far as Cam's injuries, the ribs are going to heal. It's not that big a deal. He can wear a flak jacket or whatever they call it anymore. That'll heal, and he'll be all right. I'm more worried about the ankle because I've seen too many quarterbacks have lower leg issues, even in minor issues, and then they just linger and linger and linger, especially someone who's going to be using his feet like Cam does. I remember, we all remember Dan Marino. He had the speed of a telephone pole. But by the same token, he had what I used to call phone booth speed. He could dodge, he could sidestep, he could hop, and then just that quick release get ball out. He was a strict pocket passer. Then he ruptured his Achilles late in his career, and that was kind of the start of the end for him. But he was like 35 or so when that happened, and you don't heal as well after you hit 30. A lot of things there. With Cam, with his age, he's so young, and it's not nearly severe injury like that. So I'm hoping that his youth will work into his advantage as far as healing, and I think he'll be all right. I think the coaches are doing the right thing by letting him have some time.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Derek Anderson is now a little bit banged up. Joe, what? And it does look like they're going to go with 2 quarterbacks. Do you think that they should consider maybe going with 3 at least? The first couple of weeks.
Oh, I think they're going to. I don't think there's any issue. There's any doubt. Joe Webb is going to make the team.
Okay.
He's played extremely well this preseason, and when he comes into the game, the offense doesn't have to change as much as it does when Derek Anderson enters the game. Joe Webb has the same sort of mobility and overall athleticism that Cam Newton does. I'm not saying he's as good as Cam, but athletically speaking, they're similar. So I think that, in addition to these injuries, is almost assuredly giving a roster spot to Joe Webb.
Okay, so you think that they will carry 3?
They will carry 3, right?
Okay. Ken, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. In fact, the NFL rules, they make an exception. You know, when you can only carry 45 players on a roster dressed for any particular game,
right?
Except when the 46 one's your third quarterback, and your third quarterback can only play if the first 2 are injured. So you know, there's a lot of stuff going on there. But the point is, yeah, they can carry Joe Webb and really not be penalized for it if they choose to. So I think
except that it's a roster spot that could go, you know, somewhere else, and
otherwise I think he's actually played himself into a spot.
And really,
well, the Giants are going to carry 3, so I understand that thought process. I mean, they're not going to give up Zach Mettenberger and chance, you know, losing him, trying to stick him on the practice squad. And so, I mean, I understand that. I do. I completely get that.
My
only point was the NFL makes it a little easier to do that.
Yeah.
And I think, and his value also in a pinch, if for whatever reason, we needed him to, he could go and play receiver. You know, he spent a little time in the Vikings organization
he did.
As a receiver. So in a pinch, you know, there's that aspect of versatility too.
He's only got a 45-inch vertical leap. He can't sky or anything.
That's it? Jeez.
That's crazy.
Now, I heard he did 225 on the bench press like 18 times or 21 times, something like that.
For a receiver or a quarterback, that's nuts.
Right. I heard an offensive lineman say, wow, he was impressed by that because he only did it 18.
They could legit put both of those guys, he and Cam, both on the field at the same time and really have some fun with some defenses.
That would be a nightmare for a coordinator.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
That would be some kind of wildcat formation, too, because you know, you could put either Cam or Webb at the quarterback and then either Cam or Webb at receiver. And you don't know. You don't know who's gonna be.
I think I would like to see that. I think that it would be some fun plays to watch.
I don't know that Shula's that creative.
No, I was gonna
right.
Maybe if Chodzinski was there.
Rap about Ron not being creative, do tell.
No.
He just rolls the dice. It's not so much his creativity or not.
Yeah, I think Shula's a little more vanilla, I'll say.
Yeah. All right. So teams, they're in the process. Teams are in the process of getting down to the 53-man limit. I'm not sure where the Panthers are. Do you guys know?
I want to say. Let me see.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure. I know they've made a few cuts, but they still got quite a few cuts to make. They put a few people.
Didn't they have a rather interesting trade too about a week or so ago?
They did. They got rid of Kenyon Barner. I say got rid of. That sounds terrible. But he was he was a waste of a running back for our style of play.
Right.
He just never really. He couldn't stay out of the doghouse. Coach Rivera. He just he fumbled or he had a hard time picking up blocks. As a protector in the backfield. So there were a lot of things that just didn't work out for him, and I'm glad that he got to go somewhere where he might be better utilized, I guess. But even then, I was watching the Philadelphia game the week he got traded, and he fumbled the kickoff. So there you go.
Yeah, that's not good.
There you go.
You need to take a page out of Lester Hayes' book.
What I do like is the fact that he's gone. That opens the door for Fozzie Whitaker, I think. And I really, really like Fozzie Whitaker. He brings a lot to the table.
That was sort of my clever way of segueing into him. A guy that... Did he come out of nowhere, or was he just a hidden gem that nobody had heard about?
As far as I'm concerned, he came out of nowhere. I didn't know the guy. I mean,
Never heard of him.
I heard the name and I thought about the Muppet Show. Honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Waka
Oh,
waka.
yeah, right.
And I'm like, ah.
Oh, and by the way, Ken, I did get your Lester Hayes reference.
You did. You got it.
I did.
Good.
I love that. I love it.
Mark Gal.
Yeah. So, Fozzie Whitaker's played his way onto the roster. What role do you expect him to have, Joe?
Mostly special teams. I think he's going to fill a lot of special teams time. I don't know about punting, but he'll return kickoffs and probably be on the kickoff team. Maybe punt team, that sort of thing. And then he may see some time here and there, depending on if we're up on a team by enough points. I think we're pretty solid with Tolbert, Stewart, and D'Angelo Williams back there. I don't see Fozzie being able to get in on any of them. But it's nice to have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which one of those guys do you trust the most in pass protection?
Tolbert.
Over.
Oh, yeah?
All he's
No
got to
doubt.
do is get in the way of somebody, and he's going to trip them.
Right.
So, and he's
That's one of the things I was really paying attention to at training camp, Sharona. I was really watching the backs and their protection drills, and Tolbert just dominated his man. I mean, it didn't matter who he was going against. And the other guy that blew me away with how great of a job he does in pass protection, you'll never believe it. Richie Brockle.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Nobody got around him. Nobody got around him. He dominated whoever was put up against him, too. Really impressive.
That is pretty impressive. So, is he a guy that's going to stick around and you think maybe get some opportunities?
I don't think he'll get opportunities in the backfield. He's one of those H-back kind of guys, so I see him more as filling a tight end kind of role.
Okay.
Again, mostly special teams play for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so Mike Tolbert sounds like, because he has that added ability, and when you consider, that the Panthers are struggling at that left tackle spot, do you expect to see him get some significant snaps?
I do, especially on passing downs. He may come in and help Chip, or just flat out go and help Byron Bell on that left side every time. Yeah, I do expect to see him a lot on passing downs.
Ken, what are the expectations for the running game this year?
Well, I think we expect it to improve, especially when you invest. What was a third round? Yeah, Trey Turner was a third round pick. Boston was a fourth round. Third round pick and a guard like that, and come in hopefully to start. The thing with the Panthers that worries a lot of people is fear of the unknown. And then you've got a lot of little things that add up, that stack up on top of each other, and just kind of like one of those months that you have that nothing seems to go right. Well, then you'll have a month where everything goes the opposite way. Everything kind of has a way of evening out. And I think we want to work through a lot of this, and as a result, it'll help our depth a little down the road. So you got to consider both sides of the coin. Everybody's going to have injuries. If we're going to have some, it's better to have them in the preseason than in the middle of the season. So, we might still have some in the middle of the season. Never know. And, Ron Rivera's often, he's gets off to a slow start anyway. He's
notorious.
Yeah, it's like his trademark, 1-3 run. And so
it really is.
Yeah, and I think maybe part of that's related to the schemes they run. And maybe, I don't really know why. I'm just throwing something out there, but it is what it is. And so my own feeling is if you're going to have problems, have them early. I'd rather, have a poor September than a poor December.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So.
Sure.
Oh, one other thing, you're talking about pass protection.
Yes.
I think you're going to see a lot more two tight end sets. You don't see, we run vanilla. We don't care in the preseason, because the preseason, in my view, is for the coaches as much as anything. It's who are our best 53 guys, who are our best 45 guys. And talking about Joe Webb, it's not necessarily is he the third best quarterback. But is our third best quarterback better than our sixth linebacker or whatever?
Yeah.
It's relative to other positions too. You might carry 9 wide receivers. Well, not 9. You might carry 6 or 7 if you had a lot of good depth there. And the guy, your 6th or 7th wide receiver is better than your third quarterback. Well, you carry 2 quarterbacks and keep that wide receiver. So it all depends on the mix. And then just a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree. For the Titans, where I kind of came down in at the back end of their roster, I don't know if they're going to carry 5 or 6 wide receivers. It does look like they probably will carry 6 wide receivers. They're down on their tight ends. Probably going to carry 3 tight ends, and then at linebacker, you could give or take away from that back end to the defensive backs, because a lot of it's going to depend who they think are the best guys on special teams who can gun and do block and do all of those things too.
Exactly, especially the younger players. If you're not a special teams guy and you're a younger player, you better be really good.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, Ken, I'll start with you on this, and then we can jump to Joe. Do you expect there to be any surprises when the Panthers get down to the 53? Any guys out there still jockeying for position?
It's for me or Joe?
For you, Ken.
No, you can.
Oh. Well, there's some talk about this wide receiver, Preston Burson. He's 6'3", about 215. You might think he kind of looks a little bit like Greg Olsen because of the blonde hair coming out of the bottom of the top.
Yeah.
But he's really impressed. And his first year. Let's see, he was on the practice squad last year. I think his first year he got cut and he stayed with it, made the practice squad. Now this year he's not really a rookie per se, but he might as well be for the fact that he's never played real NFL down. So,
right.
But he's all he does is catch the ball, get open. What more do you want?
Well, that's pretty important, right?
Yeah, that's kind of
position.
Yeah, that's kind of what you need to do.
If Ted Ginn had been better at that, he might still be a Panther.
Clearly, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about you, Joe? Any surprises? Any guys that you think could make or might have made an extra push in the past week or so?
I don't think there's any surprises. No, I think we all know who the guy is that who the guys are that are going to be on the team and who not. I have to agree with Ken and say Burson. I was impressed with the kid at training camp. He was Jerry Jones' neighbor growing up as a kid. I'm sorry, Jerry Richardson, the owner of the Panthers. Mm-hmm. He was Jerry Richardson's neighbor. They lived in the same neighborhood.
Wow.
He went to Wofford, the same school that Jerry Richardson went to, and he broke all of Jerry Richardson's receiving records at Wofford while he was there. So it's like
that's pretty cool.
This kid was destined to be a Carolina Panther.
He really was. Yeah, now I've got a pull for him.
Yeah, he wears number 2 in the preseason. I'm not sure what he's going to wear in the once the season starts, but he's really worked hard and he's made some plays. So I'm excited.
They're so fun to pull for. They're so easy to root for.
Yes.
I'll definitely keep an eye on him. All right, now we've got to talk about the defense, and we're going to talk about the secondary. But before we get there, and I don't want to get too much into policy or whatever, but the NFL did just release an update to their personal conduct policy to address specifically domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And it does sound like it is the policy that Greg Hardy is going to be subject to, in which case, we don't know what kind of discipline he might be facing. We've talked about this before. Are you confident that if he does face some discipline, and it might not come until next year, let's face it, but hypothetically speaking, if something does happen this year, are the Carolina Panthers prepared to address his loss for any period of time?
They are. They have made moves to try to address it. I think they have. I don't know that one person will be able to replace him. I think it'll be a defensive end by committee: Coney, Ely, Mario Addison, West Horton, Frank Alexander. Some combination of those guys will be the replacement. And now that I'm saying this, Frank Alexander is going to be suspended for the first couple of games of the year for, I believe, the violation of the substance policy, and he could end up being a camp casualty because of it. So that's something to look at. But yes.
Yeah, I mean, availability is pretty important, and if you're going to be missing games, you better be darn good, right?
Right, exactly. And he was I believe, a third-round pick for Carolina a few years back, but he's sort of been surpassed by the guys I mentioned previously. So that could be something to look out for. I'm hoping, and this is a Panther fan in me, hoping that the whole trial for the Kraken takes place next year. And if it can, then then it'll be hopefully somebody else's problem and not ours.
Yeah, because he's only on that 1-year deal, right?
That's right. That's right.
His trial, by the way, if you're watching out there, rescheduled to November. It's not uncommon for those things to get rescheduled again. His attorney doesn't think that it will get adjudicated until possibly next year. So let me ask you this, Ken, and then I'll get Joe back in. But do you think that the Panthers could walk away from Greg Hardy after this year?
Oh, I think they certainly could. I'm not saying they will necessarily, but I think the scales are tipping that way right now. At the very least,
some disturbing things came out as a result of that. Whether or not he even hit, regardless of the assault charges, were you at all concerned with some of the other things that came out?
Yeah, but of course, when those things come out and first hit the news, you have to take everything with a grain of salt because they're, you don't know how much if he was being abusive or if it's just a woman wanting her 15 minutes of fame. There's fame seekers out there everywhere. Just pulling something out of the air. Who was it years ago that said Justin Bieber made her pregnant?
Yeah. I'm not necessarily talking about that, and I don't really
somebody who wanted to get on TV.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that, and I don't really.
I'm just giving examples of things like that. It does happen. And
I'm talking about the guns, and the NFL, as part of their updated policies, they're going to look at the gun issue, and so it's not necessarily just the domestic stuff that he could run afoul of. I mean, the NFL, it really wants to redo. They have not yet. I expect this is coming very, very, very soon. Their how they address the gun issue and guys with guns. I'm a gun owner. I believe that you should have the right to own a gun. He owns a lot of guns.
Yeah, and the police found that every one that he had was legally owned.
Legally registered.
Yeah.
I do not dispute that. Yeah,
I think if you start treading on amendments like the Second Amendment, First Amendment, anything like that, Fourth Amendment, then the NFL is going to find themselves, ACLU comes after them. They're going to start a lawsuit, and they're going to draw a lot of negative attention that Roger Goodell doesn't want. So I think that's part of his reason for his flip-flopping on,
Yeah, we don't know what he's going to do, and I am very curious to see what he does do there. But I mean, they clearly said that that they were going to address that too. Do you think that?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sharona.
No, go ahead, Joe.
What I was going to say was, I think that the issue is not the number of guns that he had, because the man is a multi-millionaire time and time over, and he can afford to buy all the guns that he wants. My problem is the fact that he had them all laid out for public display, in his home. I think that's just asking for something bad to happen.
I think that it's not a very good safety measure.
Right.
No, it's not. It is not illegal either. So
no, it's not illegal. It just makes you wonder about his judgment, and that's the only thing that I have. I don't know. None of us were there, so we don't know the level
Right.
of the infraction. But I do know having your guns laying around, especially if they're loaded, is only asking for trouble.
Yeah, he needs to get a gun cabinet or some sort of safe mechanism to store that stuff. I completely agree
Sounds
with
like
that.
he needs a walk-in vault, really. But
Yeah, really.
Exactly right.
Look,
Exactly right.
I own a 38. I own a 38 special. At some point, I will own another gun, and I will have two guns because I really want a 44. I'm not. It's not, and I agree with Joe, and that's really more the thing. All the guns are all laid out. Allegedly, she was thrown on top of all of those guns that are laid out, and so I think there are a lot of things about that you were like, I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is thinking, but regardless, we'll see what happens, how that all comes down. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about the secondary because we're going to run out of time, and I do want to address that. You guys know I said should they have moved on from Mike Mitchell?
No, I did not want Mike Mitchell to leave. I would have liked for him to have stayed.
They didn't really show much interest.
No, I think they knew he was going to be out of their price range.
Okay.
I think they knew right away because Pittsburgh came in with a nice offer, and for trying to fill the needs that they had, they wouldn't have been able to match the Pittsburgh offer.
They're still digging out. There's no question.
Yes, and I think that was.
And they've got to be cognizant of what they're going to have to do with some guys who are coming up for new deals.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the Kraken about keeping him next year or not. We got to start thinking about Cam and Cam.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was getting ready to mention.
And then after that, Luke Kuechly.
Yeah.
Right after that, and then Starr, and then Kawan Short. I mean, you got to look at this long term, and if the Kraken isn't willing to give more of a hometown discount, then as much as I like having his presence on the team, you got to let him go. We've got other.
He's going to have a discount.
Yeah.
The rest and all that.
What do you think? I mean, it's hard to speculate. What do you think that it'll take to sign him to a new deal? What do you think he's going to be looking for?
He's going to want
12
top 3 money.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to want top 3 defensive end money, no doubt in my mind. We're talking like 12 million, 13 million, somewhere around there.
And up. I mean, that's the
or more, right? That's the low end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, some tough, really, really tough choices ahead, salary cap wise and contract wise for the Carolina Panthers. So, what do you think is going on in the secondary? I think there are some communication issues, and they just don't look that fast to me.
I agree. I think they look slow.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's really no speed. I think Norman may be the fastest guy on the team in the secondary, and that is scary. We've got experience isn't an issue. We've got plenty of that. It's just flat out speed. That's a very, very big concern of mine. In the New England game, it was so evident. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that, Sharona, but
just bits and pieces of it.
Our pass rush was almost non-existent, and our secondary couldn't cover.
Yeah.
They just could not cover. What's his name? Julian Edelman had 8 catches for 99 yards.
Yeah, he ate you guys up.
Yes, he ate our lunch, and that was only in like a half of play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the type of thing just to show you we're weak back there, and if we can't get a pass rush, we're very vulnerable.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because that's such an underrated part of it. You have to be able to get pressure to help protect the back end, and it all flows back.
Right.
And it all starts up front in the trenches, and it's a little surprisingly because the Panthers have good talent along that defensive line. What do you think is going on there?
I think for that game in particular, for one, Big Money or Charles Johnson, the other defensive end opposite of Greg Hardy, didn't play. Okay, so that was a big thing right there. And Greg Hardy ended up No, it wasn't Hardy. One of the defensive, I think another tackle didn't play.
No, he was short.
Yeah, it might have been Short. One of our other tackles, I think it was Short, didn't play in that game. So we were missing two parts of
two
our
pretty key parts.
Right. That hurt. But still, you would like to think we'd be able to get some pressure, but we were doing nothing. We ended up having to blitz, and even then, when we were blitzing, we really weren't generating much pressure.
Mm-hmm. Ken, Ken, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that does that say something about the Carolina Panthers defensive line rotation?
Actually, you really can't take a lot out of just one preseason game because, and I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses. I'm just pointing out a few things. Cam and the quarterbacks and all that are going through the same thing with their wide receivers this year as Brady went through with them last year. So Brady's ahead. Their offense is ahead of ours. Number two, it's Tom Brady. Okay, you're not going to fool him on a blitz or anything. And I've said this for years about him, Peyton, a couple others.
They get rid of the ball fast.
They get rid of the ball fast, and you can't fool them. The best thing you can hope is to fool one of the linemen and get to him that way because he's not that escapable, right? And the other thing is, I think Bill Belichick entered that game with a mission. He was probably still boiling from the way that game ended last year from the regular season.
On Monday night.
Yeah, and he was still steaming and carrying a grudge and saying, I'm going to put these people in, I'm going to show them what football's all about. And and he played his starters longer than we did. He played more starters than we did. Like I said, there were a lot of little things that added up to make it look worse than it really was. So
I think Bill really wants that Super Bowl trophy this year. I think that you see that. The Logan Mankins trade kind of surprised everybody. Not really. I'm not terribly shocked by it. I think that they got an underrated tight end in Tim Wright, and they are not done. They're going to bring in some more help, and I wonder what you guys think. Is Richie Incognito headed to New England, possibly?
I think he's headed to Tampa.
I was going to say I think he's headed to Tampa also, but that said, if he doesn't go there, New England might be one of the teams willing to take him because of the strength of that locker room.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, Tom Brady's not going to let him get away with any of that mess.
No, I don't think anybody in that locker room is.
Yeah, and the jury's out. I mean, the word's out on him now. People got their eye on him. He's got to behave.
He's got a bullseye on his back.
He's on a short leash now. And so he's got to put on his suit and cut his hair and dress nice and all that. And
he's going to need to be a model citizen.
He has to be. And that's going to be hard for him because he's one of those alpha male types. I don't know if you saw the season with I mentioned the Miami Dolphins earlier, but they were on HBO Hard Knocks that season, and he was one of the 3 on the leadership council. So, that
was such a joke.
I know it was. But anyway, that aside, it just kind of shows, his tendencies in his past. Yeah. And I think anywhere he goes, he's going to have a strong locker room and/or a strong coach. Yeah. And Lovie Smith is certainly, an established strong coach. So I think Tampa is a place he could go, and New England is a place he could go. Yeah. There's a lot of places that don't want him.
All right, we've gotten through all of the preseason. We're at cut time. Regular season's just around the corner. Let's talk about the division. And we've talked about this before. The New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Falcons, and then the Carolina Panthers. All extremely talented football teams. The Panthers came out atop the division last year. No team in the NFC South since its introduction in 2002 has repeated. How do you see the division coming down this year? Joe, I'll start with you, and then we'll let Ken answer.
Well, I think it's going to come down to defense, and the 2 best defenses, I believe, in the division are the Panthers, and then the Bucs/Saints. Okay, and
Yeah.
I think the
Falcons clearly have the worst defense in the
right.
division.
They
There's
have
no
one of the
question.
better offenses, but there's no doubt they're clearly the worst defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints, you got to give the edge to the Saints just because of the potency of that offense.
Mm-hmm.
They are highly, highly volatile, and the Bucs. They have a quarterback that's not really that's been a journeyman. He proved himself for 6 games last year,
Mm-hmm.
but he hasn't done it over the course of an entire season.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big question mark. So I think it's going to come down to the Panthers and their vaunted defense scratching out just enough offense, and the Saints with a very good defense and a potent offense. Just like last year, I think that's what it's going to come down to, those two teams. And me being the homer that I am, I say Carolina ends up winning the division.
All right, Ken?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Joey. I think that the Falcons are going to be last. I think the Bucs are going to be third, but I don't think any of the 4 teams are going to be really that horrible. I think the Falcons are going to win 6 to 7 games. Bucs will be around 500, maybe a game ahead of the Falcons, and then step up to the Panthers and step up to the Saints. I think the Saints have an edge because of that offense. People don't realize that they were a top 5 defense last year too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were.
They were so horrible the year before.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Ryan did an amazing job.
Exactly. They bring in the rock star, and lo and behold, like, what was it? They were 4th or 5th in total defense last year.
Yeah.
And historically speaking, the team with the best defense wins the South. Now, that said, obviously, Joey and I think that the Panthers have the best defense, but there's just so much difference in the Panthers offense and the Saints offense. There's so much difference in the Saints offense and 30 other NFL teams offense.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, so.
Well, they've got a future Hall of Famer at the helm, and a lot of talent.
They do. They do have a lot of talent. I think for Carolina to win the division, their running game is going to have to be on point this year.
Yes.
They really are going to have to be very successful running the ball. By doing that, they'll be able to keep that potent Saints offense on the sideline and chew up the clock. And that's going to, that's the only way that they'll really be able to contend. If they hope to contend throwing the ball, it's going to be a long year. That's all I can say.
You hear that a lot about Peyton Manning, but it applies to Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, all of the elite quarterbacks in the league, and I think that you've got some guys who are headed that way. But the way to beat them is to keep them off the field.
Right. They can't score points from the sideline.
Yeah. Exactly. Here's how I see it, as kind of an outsider looking in. I definitely think that the New Orleans Saints, top to bottom, are the best team in the division. I went into the draft. Well, after the draft, I went into OTAs and training camp thinking that the Falcons were probably going to be the second best team in the division. I no longer think that. I think that they are going to finish last in the division, and I think that the second and third spots are going to come down between the Panthers and the Buccaneers. And for the Buccaneers, you are spot on, Joe. It all depends on that quarterback play. Yep. They've got some talent on the offense. They've got a great defense. Their defense rivals the Panthers' defense. They're going to be even better this year under new head coach Lovie Smith and his staff. Not quite sure about Tedford, and it's weird, he's got some mysterious illness that we don't know anything about. The offense is still very much a question mark. But for the Panthers, I agree. They really need to run the football, and if they've got to get better in the secondary.
Right. I mean, they have to. I'm hoping they can make a few acquisitions after the cuts have been made. And yes, you're talking about players that weren't good enough to make other teams, but those players may be an upgrade over
Exactly.
the guys we have currently.
Exactly. Because when you think about it, the division comes down to stopping Roddy White, Julio Jones, Brandon Cooks, Jimmy Graham, and of course that's not all on defensive backs. Sometimes linebackers come into play on that too. You've got the linebackers.
Sure.
You should have a great linebacking core. You're going to really need the secondary to pick it up, I think, in order to finish second. And so, I don't know. I think that it's going to be very much a fun season to watch, and I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely, it's going to be a great season to watch for sure.
Yeah. Right around the corner.
It's right around the corner, and our hour is already up. It always goes by fast, and it's always so much fun to have you guys on. And I hope that you'll come back, and we can talk some more as the regular season gets going, and we kind of see how things are falling into place. Joe, I'm going to let you come in and tell everybody who you are, where to find you once again.
All right, I'm Joe Riollano. I am co-founder of CarolinaCatChronicles.com. CarolinaCatChronicles.com has, if you're ever in the Charleston area, the official Carolina Panthers fan club of Charleston.
Oh.
We meet at a local bar where we do raffles.
I will definitely do that.
Drink specials, food specials. We really, really have a very good time.
I need to get back in that area soon. I definitely do. Ken, what about you?
Well, I'm Ken Dye, and I'm the lead writer at CarolinaCatChronicles.com. And Twitter handle is Ken_Dye, D-Y-E. And, give me a shout out anytime. Panther Nation, Titan Nation, anybody. Want to talk?
All right, Ken. So who's going to win our fantasy football league?
I am.
Oh, jeez. I had to ask.
13 degrees of Kelvin Benjamin, baby.
Hey, it's like asking a quarterback, are you elite? What do you expect him to say?
What do you
No.
expect him to say? I know, right?
No, I'm not good.
Well, I am Sharona. You can find me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. This is the Extra Point. We come to you live every Friday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, talking AFC South and NFC South from NGSC Sports. Be sure to jump on our website and check out all the great offerings that are being put up there. A lot of great shows, a lot of great articles. And be sure to check me out every Monday through Friday, 7:30 Yahoo Sports, talking all kinds of sports on Game Over with Vashti and Sharona. Have a very pleasant evening, and we will catch you next week. Go Sports!